We've all heard of the Illuminati. We've all heard of the 1% controls the world. We automatically jump the gun and say it's the ones with money are the ones that are in control of this world. They may have some type of influence, but they're actually being controlled by the collective subconscious mind. You are the 1%. If you're listening to this video, you are the 1%. You are the one that controls the world, not the people with money, you. Just remember that. You now have the power. You are the one that literally the fate of humanity is in your hands. You are the point of creation in which the entire universe experiences itself, and it responds to you and you only. Your experience is subjective. You live in your own universe, and everybody is an aspect of your universe. You control your reality. Everything outside of you is your subconscious mind. And reality is always trying to serve you in the best way possible. And by using the occult and by using black magic, we can begin to influence our reality. So if we're always saying, from a victim perspective, like, oh, this is so corrupt, I can't be free because of this corrupt system. But remember, you are the fucking system. You are the system. And you can influence it by using the occult. If we run the show, if we control the government, then there's no one to point the finger at. That means that we're actually the only ones in control here. And that means we have to take responsibility once and for all. What is going on, guys? And welcome to the Cosmic Observer. This is a channel that breaks down everything spirituality and the occult. In today's video, we're going to take a look at Luciferian consciousness and the evolution of mankind. So if this video topic interests you, definitely stay tuned. So, Luciferian consciousness and the evolution of mankind. So what is Luciferian consciousness? What does that mean? So Luciferian consciousness is any being that shares consciousness with that of the entity known as Lucifer. And most of us have heard of the entity known as Lucifer, whether that's through the TV show on Netflix, whether we've heard it from the Bible or religion. A lot of us are somewhat familiar with the name Lucifer. We may not know exactly what it is. We may have heard that he is a fallen angel that was cast out of heaven for, seeking knowledge beyond what God offered. And so, but that's just obviously a religious idea of what Lucifer is. But what is Lucifer? So Lucifer is this entity, and he is a megaversal entity. So what does that mean? So we as a human, we are just this one consciousness filled with 8 billion other consciousnesses on this planet, and that creates a collective consciousness. And this entity is megaversal, which means he is not just existing within our universe, but multiple universes. And his consciousness, when you hear fell from heaven, what actually took place is he is like a 6th and 7th density being that then projected his consciousness into the lower levels of evolution. Why is this? There's, many reasons as to why he decided to project his consciousness down into lower densities. But one reason is evolution. And so what takes place? So when a certain aspect, so let me just put this into perspective. So we are one race of human beings. We have a collective consciousness. We're evolving and we're growing spiritually. And many say that we're evolving from third density to fourth density consciousness. And so there's also beings all across the galaxy that are doing the exact same thing as we are, as evolving. And there's many different races of beings, things that we probably have never heard of or don't even know about, like alien, extraterrestrials. Everybody and every being and every race within their own galaxy is evolving, and they're all at a certain place of evolution. And so, all of these different races and different extraterrestrial consciousnesses that are spread out across the galaxies, they all make up something larger, which is a megaversal entity. So this entity splits its consciousness off into an infinite number of ways, into, many different galaxies. And so all of these entities are familiar with different energies, and one of which is a Luciferian consciousness. And so as these races evolve, such as the human race, we're just one small teeny little aspect to what Lucifer actually is, or to what a megaversal being actually is. And so we're kind of like an orb. So if you've ever seen the movie Men in Black, at the end, the cat is wearing a collar, and they zoomed into the collar, and they found that there was the entire galaxy, and the entire universe was in this it was in a marble that this cat was wearing on his collar. And as it zoomed in, eventually there's a big bag of these marbles, which represented universes. And then eventually an alien came and picked up that big bag of marbles with all these universes in it. And so you can think of it in that same way, where we're just like this little bitty marble that is in the pocket of, or part of, this much, much larger being that makes up multiple universes and multiple galaxies. And so each universe, or each collective consciousness, again, is just a small portion of this entity's consciousness. And so what happens is it splits off certain parts of its consciousness, projects it down, forgets who he is, forgets what he is. And so how does this entity evolve? Well, it produces and creates things to where it can evolve. One of which is Earth, home to the human being. And so the human being, I don't believe, is a being that sticks around for very long. So we're only here for, the entire human race may exist for several 100,000 years or even a few million years. But eventually there will come a time where there was the beginning of the human life, human existence, and there will be an ending of human existence. And that's a scientific fact, that the sun will burn out at some point, and humans may or may not make it to that point, which is, millions and millions of years away before the sun goes out. I don't know if humans will make it that long, but in the grand scope of things, from our perspective, millions of years, that's like, wow, that's a really long time. But as a soul, or as a megaversal entity, a million years is like nothing. It's just like a blink of time. And so what happens is, how these entities in the universe evolves, it literally produces universes and galaxies where eventually billions of people will be born, and they're all going through this pressure. So the human race is going through pressure right now. And this pressure is sort of like a battery, and there's a fission taking place where you're going from positive to negative, positive to negative, positive, and eventually all this pressure will implode on itself, and it creates a positive outcome. it creates evolution. And so that's exactly what's taking place. So a lot of people were really so invested in the idea of, we're evolving into the fourth density, the human collective. But, at its core, from the way am perceiving it, is that the human consciousness and Earth as a whole really isn't that important in the bigger scope of things. It is literally just a byproduct of evolution. And so what is the human experience? What can we accomplish as a human being? So we are connected to past lives or parallel incarnations. We're connected to other extraterrestrial races. And we're connected to different beings and entities, all of which are you. So you may have lived a life as an extraterrestrial being. You may have lived a life back in the 1800s, back in the 1500s. And so when we have this human experience, we have different parts. And so within our trauma, which is essentially our karma, we connect with these different parts of ourselves. So say, for example, we lived in the Roman era, and say we had some trauma back in the day, and we got, something traumatic happened to us, and we were never able to work through that. So the idea would be that you would pass away, and you would be, eventually you would be reborn or reincarnate. And so when you reincarnate, that a similar trauma will take place that you had in that other parallel lifetime. And then from there, you actually are tuned in with this past life version of yourself, but it's actually just part of your trauma. So in this way, we're actually walking through this being, this part of ourselves. And the human body is just a vessel to walk through different parts of yourself for evolutionary purposes. So have you ever wondered why you understand what you need to do, but have you ever wondered why you just can't seem to be able to do it? Well, this is one reason, because we have different parts. Our conscious mind may be on board with something, but these different parts of ourselves may not be on board with this thing. So, for example, we're like, I need to quit smoking weed. I'm smoking weed every single day. And you're like, I quit. And then the next day you're like, I think I'm just going to smoke again. And this is your different parts, because your different parts may not be ready. Your different parts are like, I didn't say nothing about quitting weed, but you're like, I'm going to quit. And so at this point, there can be a conflict that's created between you and this part. And so this conflict is what causes pretty much most, if not all, of the suffering on this planet, is the conflict between yourself. Because what we're learning as a human being is how to be in a relationship. And the main relationship is the relationship with yourself. And so when we have conflict with parts, eventually they will manifest in a physical person, and they'll manifest in a relationship dynamic where they actually carry, or they're the embodiment of that part in real time, in real physical reality. So if you're in a relationship that's toxic, you guys are nagging each other every time, that's a reflection of the relationship you have with this part. And again, it stems from trauma and the way that we treat this part. And so what we're doing in this human body is we're a soul. We can walk through, like, here, take my hand, and we're going to go through this experience together. And if you fuck up along the way, if you relapse on the drug, or you don't do what you want to do, don't beat yourself up, because you're working with a part. You're working with a part, and you're walking him through this experience. So you have to treat it like a child. We're walking through children, so we have to nurture these parts of ourselves as if we were raising a child. You can't yell at the child. You can't ridicule the child. You have to say, here, take my hand, and let's do this together. And that's the first step in the evolutionary path, is admitting to yourself that you're ready, and you just, in a way, somehow consciously communicate with these different parts of yourself. And so as we evolve and we walk these different parts through the experience that they need to have, that creates evolution. And once all the evolution is complete that on this planet will cease to exist. And it beams back up to the megaversal entity. And there's many megaversal entities. There's not just Lucifer. Hecate would be a megaversal entity that you could say gave birth to Lucifer. And so all of these existences and all of these different realities that exist around the universe are just methods of evolution. And that's all there is in this universe, is evolution and experience. And that's the only real currency in the universe. So we have money on this planet. Money is a piece of paper that we've determined has value. Why? Because we've just said it has value, so it has value. And that kind of programmed the matrix into it actually being valuable. But when you die, you can't take any money with you, nor is it valuable. It has no value in the afterlife or when you're dead, because this is part of our earth and our earth only. But if there is one currency that is a universal currency that actually has value in a lifetime or outside of a lifetime, that would be evolutionary potential. So as you grow and evolve, are you creating evolutionary potential in your life? Are you sharing evolutionary potential with those around you? And so the more evolutionary potential we create, the more value we add to the universe and ourselves. When we're looking at the scope of human evolution, there is specific individuals. We've all heard of the Illuminati. We've all heard of the 1% controls the world. And there is truth to that. It may not be in the way that we think it is, but there is truth to that, and the 1% controls the world. And we automatically jump the gun and say it's the ones with money are the ones that are in control of this world. They may have some type of influence, but they're actually being controlled by the collective subconscious mind. So when we're looking, this is a very, very important thing to keep noted, because I understand this, but I still forget it. So you control this reality. You control this reality. We're always looking outward and saying, the government's bad. We need to get this law passed. Like, hopefully Trump gets in office, or hopefully somebody else gets in office. Hopefully they pass these laws, or the government's cracking down. And Trudeau in Canada is so corrupt, he needs to be jailed, and all of this stuff. And we're looking at this from an outside perspective and saying, these people are the cause of my problems. Why does it have to be this way? But remember, you control your reality. Everything outside of you is your subconscious mind. And reality is always trying to serve you in the best way possible. And by using the occult and by using black magic, we can begin to influence our reality. So if we're always saying, from a victim perspective, like, oh, this is so corrupt, I can't be free because of this corrupt system. But remember, you are the fucking system. You are the system. And you can influence it by using the occult. And so one example would be say you're like, I can't buy this house because the tax rate's too high. If you just let it go, forget about it, quit looking outside of yourself and saying this is the problem, begin working on yourself, begin processing your deeper emotions, and begin to see that anything is possible, doorways will start to open up in your life. And within a few months, they might just randomly pass a law that removes that high tax rate, which allows you to perfectly buy that home that you exactly wanted. And I've found that there's things like this happen more often than not. It's just a matter of, are you seeing the subtle things that are taking place around you? And so these are things that I can see firsthand, where the universe and the world responds to you. And this is a very tough subject, because it's like, we can realize it, but then we fall back into like playing the blame game or saying like, this is the problem. But we have to remember, if we run the show, if we control the government, then there's no one to point the finger at. That means that we're actually the only ones in control here. And that means we have to take responsibility once and for all. Literally, you create your own reality. You create your own fucking reality. Just remember that. That's very, very important to keep that in mind. And so when negative experiences happen to you, it's your own subconscious mind generating that experience to crack you open, to break you open. So say you get into a car accident. Your subconscious mind drove you directly into that other vehicle to where they would hit you at that exact time. And this is all stuff that takes place on a deeper level, because again, the earth is 70% water. We're 80% water as a human being. Water, the ocean, is the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is the majority of what reality is. The conscious mind is just a little bloop. So everything is malleable within the subconscious realm. And if we learn how to use the subconscious realm, that's how we can just pop things into the conscious space of reality, the physical reality. And so the number one thing is to definitely work through your traumas, because your traumas keep you stuck in a time warp. They literally keep you stuck in a time loop where you're actually stuck in the past. So you're not even in this present moment. You're living out past experiences as a coping mechanism. Your body is like in a state of shock to where you're actually not doing anything new. Your body is just operating off of muscle memory. Your mind is operating off of muscle memory. And so you're doing the same thing over and over, actually stuck in time. And that's literally what the Matrix is where you're not actually moving forward at all. You're just stuck in a time loop, doing the same things over and over. And so once we can break through that trauma, we can crack the time loop and begin producing and creating something new, and begin moving this energy in a new, powerful way. And then we can begin pouring out our passion and love, and begin to enjoy this life in the best way possible. And so, a lot of us, I understand, aren't happy. And what if I told you the point was not to be happy? The only point there is here is evolution. And an evolutionary experience may require you to not be happy. That doesn't mean you can't be happy. It just adds difficulty to the experience. So just like going into ice cold water. So say you go to Iceland and you go jump into a frozen frickin' lake. It's freezing and you can die, and it's awful. But as you sit in the water, you can learn to float in the water, and you can even learn to enjoy it. There's individuals that can sit in ice water all day long. and they can use their mind to, literally increase their body temperature. And they do ice baths, and eventually it's like a pleasure to them. It feels good. It makes them feel alive doing ice baths. And so that's a similar concept. So in the human earth realm, it's similar to an ice bath. We're all by default in the ice bath, fucking, going through whatever it is we're going through. It's just a matter of eventually learning to enjoy it. So we can't necessarily just find happiness in one day. It's a process of learning to enjoy the fucking pain. Enjoy and embrace, and the only way to do that is by embracing the experience. And so with this life, we're given endless opportunities to begin enjoying and embracing the experience. And we don't necessarily have to be in the ice water the entire time. We can get out to warm up for a little bit, but going back in the ice bath would represent opening up your traumas, opening up the doorways to your trauma. And that's really what this entire occult path is all about, is opening up the doorways to your trauma. That's what initiation of the clip-off, which is the tree of death, which is the hell realms that make up this matrix. When you open up those and initiate into the tree of death through occult initiation, that's exactly what's taking place, is you're opening up the shells or the doorway to your trauma. And that's all it is. And so if we set up our foundation properly and we take the necessary and proper steps, we can have a very high success rate in doing exactly what we need to do. And one step that is a very key and important step is, in a way, surrendering part of your free will. And that sounds, like, whoa, surrender my free will. That's all I have, right? Is my free will. Well, I've pinpointed in my life specifically, obviously this might not work for everybody, but I've pinpointed in my life, the only thing that's stopping me and giving me problems is my own free will. And so how do you surrender your free will? Well, you can do it simply by speaking out loud, setting up a meditation, lighting a couple candles, or just laying in bed at night and literally talking to the universe or talking to yourself sincerely from the heart. And whenever you're ready, you can even write something down and communicate, to the universe and just say straight up, I've been doing the best that I can. I admit that I don't know what I'm doing because I don't. Please envelop me and show me the way through me. Show me the way through me. And I surrender my free will to the source of creation to show me the way. Because obviously I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and I'm not going to try to say I do. Because that just creates more pain and suffering when I know I'm right. I know what I'm doing. Which is obviously a very masculine approach to that. But by stepping into your feminine energy and just kind of, in a way, admitting defeat. And by doing that, then you open up the doorways for something new to come in and show you. It's just like an energy that flows through you. This energy is all around us at all times, waiting to flow into you. It's just, since we have free will, we're just like this fucking hard-ass shell where new energy can't flow into because we know how to do it. So the universe is like, you got it, bud. Apparently you know what the fuck you're doing, and we can't reach you because you know what you're doing, obviously. And so by opening up the channels, by opening up and cracking the shell and just saying, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And crying if you need to, having some sort of a release of energy, to let go, just surrender. And that creates a sense of safety in the nervous system, which is one of the most important things in this path, is creating that safety. Because when you're in a state of fight or flight, you can't do anything. You can't process any emotions. You can't do the deeper work because your fucking nervous system's shot. And so, and I think what it is because people are afraid to find safety because they know subconsciously if they find safety, that's when they're going to have to deal with their problems. So when you're in a state of fight or flight constantly, these traumas are just like bouncing off. That's what creates disease. When what cancer is the cell continues to multiply until it creates this thing, this growth. But really, it's just the trauma kind of like going like this. It can't do anything. It's like, and it's like throwing off all your cellular function. And that's your trauma that's keeping you in the past. It's stuck in the body. It's stuck in the nervous system. And it's keeping you in a state of fight or flight, doing the same things over and over. And so when you find that safety, when you release, when you surrender, take a deep breath out, and then this trauma begins to open up. And you're forced to face the trauma. And that's unfortunately what has to take place when you find safety. And so I'm going to tell you something, and I'm not a doctor, and I'm not offering any, medical advice. Definitely seek a physician, all that stuff. But what takes place is when you see chemotherapy, why does chemotherapy, obviously it's the only cure to cancer, and it is what's provided by the medical health care industry. And so you see chemotherapy, it has a slim success rate, but there is some success in it. Why is that? And so what it seems that is actually taking place is your body is continuously in a bit of a fight or flight mode where the nervous system is overactive, and the majority of human beings live their entire lives with an overactive nervous system. And so with that, they can't really experience or process any of the deeper emotions or deeper traumas. So eventually it does translate into health issues. And once this health issue is taking you, it can take your life. And so what the chemotherapy seems to do is it, in a way, appears to poison the body to such a degree that it forces you into a feminine state of being. And when you're in that feminine state of being, the nervous system begins to sort of open up. So it's kind of like it forces your system to give you an opportunity to process the trauma. And so I think when that takes place, of when you have success stories of, the chemotherapy helped them, is because it forced them in a state to feel, and they were able to process the trauma. And in the cases where it didn't work, it seems that they weren't able to process the trauma because it's almost like a last resort. You're going to pass away if you don't process this. This is the last resort. So it's like the chemotherapy is like an injection of poison, the poison of God, otherwise known as Samael. So we have to see the poison of God in order to have that last opportunity to process what's below. Because what the poison of God actually means is it's like a poison that you drink that deconstructs the construct that you've created to keep you in a state of an overactive nervous system. So it kind of poisons that system, and it helps you to step more into that authentic state. And then you can potentially process what's beneath. And this is sort of the entire process of initiation, of when we go into the clip-off. In a way, when we're working with demonic energies, we're drinking the poison. We're, in a way, casting warfare or psychic warfare. We're even cursing ourselves. But we're just cursing the illusionary constructs that we've created that keep us in a state of dis-ease. And so, that's one of the biggest things, is literally processing your traumas. And it's the most scariest thing that you can do in this lifetime, is processing and facing your deepest, darkest fears. And so that's where occult initiation takes place. That's where evolution takes place. And so back to the point, I got way off topic. So the point of this topic was the 1% that controls the world. So again, you control the world. You have the world, you have the power of the world at your fingertips. You are the point of creation in which the entire universe experiences itself, and it responds to you and you only. Your experience is subjective. You live in your own universe, and everybody is an aspect of your universe. And so you are the 1%. If you're listening to this video, you are the 1%. You are the one that controls the world, not the people with money, you. Just remember that. You now have the power. You are the one that literally the fate of humanity is in your hands. And always remember that. And I think we'll just go ahead and end the video with that one. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It was just a crazy, very stimulating topics.